Welcome back, Family History Detectives. I'm Coach Carole, and in today's lesson, we're diving into a powerful tool that's going to supercharge your family history research. Perplexity AI. As a genealogist, I know that understanding the historical context of my ancestors' lives is crucial. But sifting through countless historical sources can be time-consuming and overwhelming. Now that's where Perplexity comes in. Perplexity AI is an AI-powered research tool. It's a search engine, and it goes beyond simple fact-finding. It excels at providing in-depth, nuanced information from a variety of sources, making it perfect for historical research. Why Perplexity for genealogy? I have found it to be a wonderful assistant, and I've been using Perplexity for some months. Its recent upgrades and updates have encouraged me to now subscribe to Perplexity Pro so that I can make the best use of those new features. But why should you add Perplexity to your genealogy toolkit? Here's 3 key reasons. 1, up-to-date information. Perplexity pulls from the current sources, ensuring that you have the latest historical research at your fingertips. Depth of context. It doesn't just give you the facts, it provides a rich historical context that can bring your ancestors' lives to the forefront. Source citations. Unlike some AI tools, Perplexity provides links to its sources, allowing you to verify information and dive deeper. Let's now go and have a look at Perplexity with a practical example. We're currently looking at my Perplexity account, and it's showing the main page in the center part, and then the navigation bar and my options on the left-hand navigation bar. So I can go to a new thread directly. I can come back to home. I can discover various sites. I can enjoy working with my spaces, more about that later, or I can go directly to my library. But let's do something really simple to start with. Let's imagine that you're researching what your ancestors' lives may have been like in the 1850s. We can simply put in a prompt, such as this one, to describe daily life in London for a working-class family in the 1850s, including details about housing, diet, and work conditions. And then we can activate that. It will do a search for information pertaining to that, and it will give you the sources that it's used to come up with an answer to your prompt. Below, here is the answer, which tells us that daily life for a working-class family in the 1850s London was characterised by hardship, poverty, and challenging living conditions. And here's an overview of their typical experiences. Then goes into details about housing, diet and nutrition, work conditions, family life, health and mortality. And you'll notice how clearly it provides you with this information in dot point format. Below are some useful follow-up related questions that you could use to further discover the conditions under which your 1850s London ancestors lived. This is one of the great things about Perplexity. It just gives you more depth and more ideas to blend even more detail into your family history stories. This rich context allows us to paint a more accurate and vivid picture of our ancestors' lives. It's not just names and dates anymore, it's real lived experiences. As we use this powerful tool, remember these best practices. Be specific with your questions. The more detailed your queries are, the more relevant your results. 2, always verify information with primary sources when possible. You'll see the links to its sources in the answer. 3, use the provided source links to dig deeper into topics. And 4, experiment with different phrasings to get varied perspectives on your topic. In the next part of this lesson, we'll walk through a step-by-step example of using Perplexity to research a specific historical event and how it might have affected my ancestors. We'll then see how to weave this information into a compelling family narrative. Let's have a deeper look at Perplexity now for our next iterations and conversations. I first want to tell you a little bit about spaces, so we'll go to those. If you're a Claude user, this is a bit like using projects and artifacts. So you'll notice that I have a couple of my spaces here, Genealogy 2.0, some bookmarks, family history discoveries, and then below it gives you a couple of examples that you can use for yourself. Now within these spaces, I can upload information. Let's have a look at family history discoveries. So in this space, I have given my AI tool some instructions about how it should give me answers to my queries. And I'll show you in another video how you can do that. Most importantly, though, I'm able to upload some files here, which will help with the next set of queries about an historical event. And in this case, I'm researching a story about my great-great-grandmother. Her name was Sarah Goetz. And there was some information from the British newspapers of the time about a concealment of birth. So I have transcribed those and uploaded the files here and here. I've also included a generational chart for Sarah, her maiden name being Sarah Lagdon, so that the tool now has some information not only about the event, but about this ancestor and her family. And below, you'll see some threads that I have used to tease out the information. In this thread, we've used a prompt to find the details of this story about Sarah, who was on trial for concealment of birth. So this thread is like a string of conversations. So clicking onto that will show us the results that Perplexity came up with. So there's the prompt at the top. This is its process. It did some research. It looked at the details in the documents and in some of the websites, such as, you see them here, an historical newspaper transcript, which I had given it. It's in a PDF format. Concealment of birth. This time it's a case about the repeal of the concealment of birth. What is the charge of concealment of birth? And this was in the Western Australian district in recent times. And then an interesting one, which looked at other cases of concealments of birth from a one-place study called the Dunster Ancestors. Come back to that later. Below, here is the answer. Sarah's case of concealment of birth is a poignant example of the social and legal challenges faced by women in the 19th century. Here's a detailed account of her story and the broader context of such cases. So what it does then, it summarises and synthesises the information from the various tools that I've given it. And gives me a neat summary of Sarah Goetz' case, including discovery and initial investigation, the involvement of neighbours, and court proceedings. And finally, sentencing and punishment. And then wraps it up with the context for concealment of birth cases. And talks about the reasons for concealment, legal complexities, historical prevalence, modern perspective, and a final summarised paragraph that says Sarah Goetz' story reflects the harsh realities faced by women in the 19th century, etc., etc. Below are a number of continuing questions that we could use to further tease out the story, such as what were the main reasons Sarah Goetz gave for concealing the birth? Once again, Perplexity went back to the documentation to seek evidence of that, and the answer was given below. And in this case, Sarah is quoting financial constraints, saying she has not sufficient money to pay the burial fees for her daughter Elizabeth's child. And secondly, legal requirements. Sarah said that she knew she could not get this infant interred without a certificate from a doctor. It's a very sad tale. Sarah was faced with a very difficult situation, and it gives another perspective on how this whole case would have affected the family of Sarah Goetz. It appears that the child was an illegitimate birth to one of Sarah's daughters, and sadly, it was an infant that did not see life. It was stillborn. And in an attempt to hide the birth and to protect her daughter, Sarah hid the child somewhere on her property. So there's a lot of detail that Perplexity has gone into. And now I can produce all of that as part of my story to tell about Sarah Goetz and the concealment of birth. And one of the things that the new version of Perplexity can do for me now is to allow me to place that into what they call a page. So let me go over to my library. Here are the threads that I was talking about before. And over here are the pages. And this is where you can create a page. Let me just go back one step. Once you've clicked on pages down here, you'll see any that you have created. And here is the one that was created for the Sarah Goat's concealment of birth. So clicking into this page, now you'll see it as a full story. I've been able to create an image using AI, of course, and to place that at the top of the page. And then below, it has set out the story, the case of Sarah Goats, in a neatly arranged page with headings, sources, and the ability to copy a link to each section or copy the section content. So if you're building a story elsewhere, it's a simple matter now to copy each of those segments and place them where you want it. It's given us a really in-depth page of information about this specific event relating to Sarah Langton or Sarah Goats in the concealment of birth. I hope that you've been able to see now how powerful Perplexity AI is as a tool. Specifically, the benefits of using Perplexity Pro in being able to generate a page. I think you'll find it a fascination that you can't let go of to help you with your family history stories. So get ready to bring your ancestors' world to life like never before. And I hope that you can continue your journey into the past, powered by the technology of the future.